So let's start at the top in the ring chaser tier.
Yep.
As you so eloquently put it on the last show. And you got to start, of course, with Oklahoma City, the defending champs, best record in the league last year. And I think poised to be even better this season, if that's even possible.
Oh, I don't think there's any question.
Yeah, I mean, they handled their business in the offseason in a very quick and efficient way. Like, there was no dicking around with the extensions for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, for Chet Holmgren, for Jalen Williams. They gave them a combined $750 million guaranteed, and there was no flinching at all. Like, those things got done. Boom, 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 when they needed to get done. So you're bringing these guys back. They're happy. They're eager. They all want to be there. They all know what they're signing up for and the roles they're signing up to play. That was smart. And the organic growth alone from all these guys, like, you might be able to say that Shai is now in his prime. This is the very best of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and can be for a couple more years. But I look at Chet Holmgren as someone that missed like 50 games last year because of a hip injury, having a full offseason to strengthen, to get healthy, to work on his game. He's going to get better. J-Dub, only a few years into the league, he's going to get better. I was asking Mark Dagnall during the finals about Nikola Topic. This was a lottery pick from about 18 months ago, who is now going to enter the mix after a full season of being, on the bench, working with the team, working with the coaches, getting stronger. He's going to enter that rotation. Like, they already were the deepest team in the NBA. Now they're still the deepest team in the NBA with guys that are even better. So, Oklahoma City's in that ring chaser tier, but you might have to put them in a tier like the gold ring chaser tier, the platinum tier among either conference, because they look like they are in a class by themselves.
I totally agree. I think just that experience, too, of going through that crucible of the playoff experience, having things, look, they didn't have a rough ride to the NBA title, but there were some times where things looked dicier than others, and they had to beat the Denver Nuggets the way they did. Pacers, man, I said it in the last podcast, like, they came very close to winning that NBA Finals. And so the fact that they were able to sort of handle their business and fight through that. And by the way, when another team has a huge star go down injured, sometimes it's hard to play the rest of that game if you're the opponent. We've seen that, right? Defense doesn't know what to do anymore, and they kind of fall apart, and that didn't happen. A lot of these guys have apparently had their first beer, which I'm very proud of them for, in the locker room after the game.
Saddest locker room celebration ever.
I still can't get over it. It's been months. I've covered so many championships, World Series, NFL, Super Bowls, obviously a ton of basketball ones, Stanley Cup. I have never seen anything like it. There were maybe 6 total bottles of empty champagne at the end of the night compared to like the 50 or 60 that we normally see.
It's almost like they were anticipating practice the next day. We can't get too drunk. We got to be,
Well, I've said it, I said to you the next day, it's the first Gen Z championship.
Yeah.
And if you look at the numbers, Gen Z does not drink. They've had all-time low of alcohol sales in this country as Gen
really a
Z.
thing?
That is really a thing.
Gen X, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, we Gen Xers are still carrying the torch.
We are functional.
Are we functional alcoholics or just alcoholics?
Close.
Anyway, but yeah, no, I think all of that experience really matters. I really believe that, and I think that all of that will help them. I am curious. Look, I voted for Shai for MVP. I think he deserved MVP. I think the way that team was successful and him leading it matters. I think the amount of wins they had over the Nuggets matters. I still think Nikola Jokic is a better player. And I really like the way Denver finally, excuse me, but got off its ass and had a good offseason this year compared to the crimes that were committed after they won the championship. And I don't know if I put Oklahoma City in a class by itself.
So Denver's interesting. Let's talk about them. Because I agree with you. They're the next team on that tier right behind them. Even with all the injuries they had, they pushed Oklahoma City to 7 games and lost fair and square, but lost what felt like more of a war of attrition than lost the series. They just didn't have enough,
enough
bodies to get it done. And I'm with you. I think they've done this offseason what they should have done over the last couple of years. Like, you trade Michael Porter Jr. for Cam Johnson. You can debate whether or not that's a lateral move. Did they get better? But what they were able to do is take some of the money they saved on the deal, because Porter Jr.'s contract is bigger, and go out and get guys that can help them. They've got Bruce Brown back into the mix. Jonas Valanciunas is now in the mix. Tim Hardaway Jr. is now in the mix. Like, a lack of depth last year killed them. Absolutely killed them. Now, you can look at them and say, we can go 8 deep with players that can play. Bruce Brown knows how to play in that system, whether it's, Mike Malone's system or David Adelman's system.
It's still the same relationship.
Tim Hardaway Jr., that's like, I feel like they're getting a starter for dirt cheap money. They're not the same guy, but I can see Tim Hardaway Jr., camping out in the corner in the way KCP did for Denver and playing the same kind of role for him. Valanciunas, I'm not going to say he's an elite big man, but he's a big, strong body that can take the load off Nikola Jokic.
I mean, the on-off numbers of Jokic last year and the team, I mean, it was criminal. I'd love to know where that fit into like the all-time on-offs of a star. I mean, I think Valanciunas is just going to raise that floor so much. He's not, as you said, he's not a superstar in that category, certainly older, but he's a grown-up and he's big, and I just think he's going to make those non-Jokic minutes so much more palatable, and they just would lose ground every game by such a degree every time Jokic stepped off the floor, and it put real wear and tear on him. I mean, he obviously played well through that 7th game of the finals, but you could see him get worn down at times this season, putting together that spectacular season, because it was literally the only way the team could even win a game. Mm. And so I just think that will take some pressure off him, both mentally and physically. And so he will be, if it's possible to be better, he will be better. Bruce Brown is not, I just think that the depth that they brought in isn't just depth. It's the right depth. Mm-hmm. I do think Cam's an upgrade. I think, that's not depth, but I do think he's an upgrade over MPJ. I think then when you get to the depth level, Bruce Brown, he's so comfortable in that locker room. Everybody trusts him. Knowing what to do, knowing how to play with the players on that team and put them in their best spots, and reciprocally the other way around, I just think is going to be huge for them. I really like the Hardaway Jr. I think that he showed a lot, not just, not just on the floor, but the leadership that he's shown over the last season has been really instrumental and interesting. And I just think that everyone plays better when Nikola Jokic is the guy passing to you.
Yeah, I'm not quite there on Cam being an upgrade over Porter Jr., only because we haven't seen how he fits with them. And like, Porter Jr. won a championship with him. He's shown he can play successfully opposite Jokic, certainly limited, especially defensively. But I'll need to see how that works. But even if it's a slight step back, like the way they got better at these other positions, they're not so dependent on 5 guys. Like, they look down the end of the bench and say, like, all right, we can put Russell Westbrook in, but his playoff numbers were just dreadful. The young guys, maybe one of them develops this year, but they weren't ready to step in last year. The Strothers and the guys and the Peyton Watsons, like, they weren't ready.
Although Chris Brown.
Yeah. Oh, no, well, Bruce Brown I don't even put in that mix because Bruce Brown stepped in for KCP and was outstanding. Like, he was ready to go. It's just that nobody was able to step into the Bruce Brown role, like what he was doing. Not the Bruce Brown role, the Christian Brown role.
Yeah, Christian
so many
Brown.
Browns, misspelling all the way.
Yeah.
Nobody was ready to take his role. Now you've got guys that can do it. Bruce Brown can play that role. Tim Hardaway Jr. can play that role. I think their depth is going to be a major reason they're successful this season.
Put them up against Oklahoma City. That's why, to me, Oklahoma City is the favorite. Yeah. I don't think there's any question about that. And I always feel that unless there's been a significant change on a team, the team that won it gets to be the favorite because they're again, it's like we talked about in the last pod with Tom Thibodeau. We can all sit around and speculate all we want. The results are the results. Mm-hmm. And Oklahoma City delivered the results. But I still think, we go in the NBA, who's the best player on the floor? And if you had full strength Oklahoma City with this year's full strength Denver Nuggets roster meeting in a playoff series.
I don't know. The best player on the floor is still Jokic.
The best player on the floor is Nikola Jokic. So then the question is, you put those rosters up against each other, huge talent in Oklahoma City, young players getting better, energy, teamwork, skill, all the things. And man, I like this Denver roster, and the best player on the floor would be Jokic. I think that while Oklahoma City is the favorite, I'm not ready to say they're in a category by themselves because I would put the Nuggets in that. If it's a 2-person group, I'd still put Oklahoma City ahead of them, but not by enough that they drop down to a whole other tier.
Yeah, that's Ali Frazier. That's Mayweather Pacquiao. That's just a clash of the Titans if they wind up staying healthy and be in the playoffs. So we agree. Those are the top 2 teams in the West. But I think also on that contender tier, a few others. And I'm going to put the Clippers on that contender tier. Now, it comes with the obvious caveat that Kawhi can't play 40 some odd games. He's got to play 60-ish and be fully healthy for the playoffs.
Not just him, by the way.
Right.
It's the oldest roster in the league.
Yes. But I like what they did this offseason. I like some of the moves they made. The John Collins addition I thought was really good. Like John Collins, everywhere he's been the last few years, Atlanta, Utah, it's just been like, we've got John Collins, but he's available. Like, we're ready to trade him. I think even for just for 1 year, because that's all he has left in the contract, he's found a good home here.
I agree.
Because he's an athletic 4, conceivably can slide over to the 5. And I think his presence is going to take a lot of physical pressure off of Kawhi. Like, we're not going to see, if Collins is effective, we won't see as many Kawhi at the 4 lineups. You can play Collins next to Zubac, who had a breakout year last year. All of a sudden, you've got Zubac, you've got Collins, you've got Kawhi. That is a big, sturdy, defensively sound front line.
Yeah.
I like that front line. Getting Bradley Beal, great.
I think it's huge.
Because they lost Powell, mostly. Like, if they had Norman Powell, I would say it's kind of superfluous. I don't know if you need Bradley Beal. But you lose Powell, you get maybe 80% of what he gave you last year.
I think,
You think more? You think he's an upgrade?
I'm not sure he's an upgrade because I think so highly of Norman Powell. But I think people have way overcorrected something on Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal was a terrible value at the contract he had, at the amount of money he was being paid, to have a no-trade clause on a team where he didn't fit, right? We all agree with that. That is so different from Bradley Beal is not a good player.
Yeah.
Those are 2 completely different sentences.
And it was dysfunctional last year in Phoenix.
Of course, it's dysfunctional every year in Phoenix lately. But anyway, I just think people are underestimating what he can do in a functional environment. Ty Lue, to me, is hands down.
Top 5 coach.
Right?
Yeah.
He's going to put him in a position to succeed that will be a positive environment. You and I live in LA. We spend time around the Clippers. That has been a very functional, happy, grown-up locker room. I think the nice thing about having the oldest team in the league is that no one's trying to make their bones on this team. James Harden knows who he is. You know, it's funny, I don't remember, Bleacher Report, someone had a post recently about just sort of all the people he outranked in every single category. And it's worth looking up. Like, I just looked for it, I can't find it right now. But it's kind of crazy. I still think he's underrated, weirdly.
You think Harden's underrated?
I really do.
Okay, I think he's the wild card here.
I think people's personal opinions of him, which, by the way, he's earned, affect what they think of him on the court. And by the way, I agree that he can get tired by the end of the season, hasn't delivered in the playoffs and all of those things. But I think that if they use him well and smartly.
So what does that look like, though? Because, you said Ty's a great coach, but year after year, the Harden story is largely the same. Like, with some outliers, he's had some playoff success. It's not like every year's a clunker.
He absolutely has. I mean, this is where the Chris Paul story, I'm just like, Chris Paul has not been a disaster in every playoffs.
Right.
Like, James Harden has not been a disaster in every playoffs.
But last year, he wasn't good at the end.
Well, last year, there was a lot. The thing about Harden is he plays every game.
Yeah.
Right? With very few exceptions. And when I said it's not just Kawhi at the beginning of this discussion, I think every single guy on that team has to be managed minutes-wise, and that includes Harden, and that hasn't happened since he got to the Clippers. It hasn't happened anywhere he's been. And I think he's such a workhorse. He wants to be on the court. He gets himself in the kind of shape to be healthy once he decides to get in shape, and he's just physically so much bigger than people kind of give him credit for, broad, all of that. I think his minutes still need to be managed, even if he's available. I think there has to be just something in mind, and we'll talk about LeBron at some point about the same thing. There just has to be a consideration of we need you to be at your best in March, April, May, and June, as opposed to October, November, December, January. But I do think he's underrated. I think that he still has so many savvy parts to his game. He is a workhorse out there. And then you get into, if Kawhi can stay healthy, knock, 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 but he did it this past season. I think Bradley Beal is underestimated. I just think there's so many parts of that team that are underestimated, and I would not put them in the top Oklahoma City, Denver Nuggets tier. But I do think if you're making the next group down, they fit in there.
So
I wouldn't put them at the top of the next group down, by the way, but I would say they're in that group.
So Beal on paper, I think can be a big hit there. We've talked about this a little bit before. I know Bradley Beal probably knows exactly what he's signing up for, but it's one thing to know it. It's another thing to kind of go in and accept a reduced role after being the alpha in Washington, going into a situation in Phoenix where you thought you were going to be the alpha. I need to see how that plays out on the floor. I also don't know how he can't really play much with Harden. I don't know how that backcourt works.
Right.
That's two negative defenders in the backcourt. And as good as Kawhi is, Zubac, elite defensive player, I have my concerns about them in the backcourt. Harden, he's just not every year, but watching him in the playoffs last year, they were up 2-1, on Denver in that series, and they lost. And he was among the reasons that they lost. How he played in that series was why they lost. And the Clippers, they keep giving him money that I don't know who they're bidding against. They gave him a new contract. It's going to pay him $40-something million next year. I don't know who the competition is for that in this situation. Now, that's just money that I don't really care. I'm not watching pocketbooks or anything like that. But they keep buying into James Harden.
But that's what the money's for. The money is to get the James Harden that they want on the team. Because if you underpay James Harden in James Harden's estimation, he's going to check out.
Yeah.
And they don't have an option to replace him.
Yeah.
So therefore, it is worth paying more than his market value to get what you need him to be on the roster. That is the thinking.
So in an ideal world, what do you think James Harden's workload should be in the regular season? Because he was, again, really good in the regular season this year.
Well, how many games did he play last season?
I don't have it in front of me, but
let's look, shall we?
He played a lot. He played a lot. I don't know. I have a lot of reservations about relying on Harden when he gets to the playoffs. I just think I've seen it too many times before, and he's now, 35, 36 years old?
Okay, so last season he played 79 games.
Yes.
There's no way on earth they should be playing him 79 games, and I understand that when you have a team that a lot of guys are injury prone, and here's a guy who's available and ready to play and really good, you play him. And that he wants to play, and Ty's an old school coach and all of that stuff. But again, you just have to be smarter with these older players. And whether it's LeBron James, who wants to play every game, or James Harden, who wants to play every game, they've just got to have a come to Jesus with these guys and say, he could play 60 games and be a completely different player in the playoffs. So just also, you got to balance that against one of the most...
And he had to, look, it wasn't so easy, I'm sure, last year because Kawhi was out so much that James Harden's why I'm sitting, all of a sudden you're in the play-in at the end of the season. So they barely got into the field.
But that's where to me, again, the Bradley Beal addition is so interesting because you're right. I wouldn't put them on the floor together that often, but it will possibly allow James Harden to not play as much or as hard or as many minutes or as many games.
But he kind of takes the Powell slot. I'm not sure how much of an upgrade you're going to get off based on the year Norman Powell had last year.
Yeah.
Where he was I know there was Kyrie got the injury replacement, but he was next man in line, I think, for that.
Yeah.
I don't know how big an upgrade that's going to be for them. I don't know. But I like them on that tier. You need Kawhi to play the full season. I love the John Collins addition. Getting Bradley Beal for short money was excellent paper. I think it's going to come down to Harden in the playoffs. Can he be in the postseason the dominant force that he's been in the regular season? I
think they would need luck and things to go well for them to be in the NBA Finals. I just don't think if they ended up in the NBA Finals, we would be like, oh my God, how did this happen? I think you're the one who introduced them in this tier, and I think you were right.
Yeah. All right. The next team I have in that tier is the Houston Rockets.
Okay.
Because Houston kind of did sort of a paint by numbers move this offseason where it's all right, we are an elite defensive team. We have good depth. We are missing a go-to scorer. That was a glaring weakness in that series against Golden State. So let's go out and get a guy who's still one of the best go-to scorers in the NBA and Kevin Durant. Go out and get him. All it really cost them is Jalen Green and some draft capital. Good deal, I thought, for the Rockets. Kevin Durant, even in his late 30s, is still a bucket. He is a walking bucket.
100%.
And he's going to be a walking bucket till the day he leaves that NBA floor, whenever that may be.
And a good influence on their young players.
Absolutely. And look, we're talking about LeBron being a dominant force in his 40s. I think Durant's the next guy to hit that list. I think Durant's going to hit 40 and still be the Slim Reaper, still out there giving 100%. You 20-plus points per game. He's not the same guy we saw in his MVP years. He's not as dominant defensively because he was a great defensive player in his best years. And, I think he's more, just a scorer at this point. But that's exactly what they need. Like, they've got defensive players. They've got long wing defenders. They've got 3-and-D guys. They've got size up front. What they need is when the game slows down, somebody to get them a bucket. And Kevin Durant is that guy to get them a bucket. So that's a team that won, 52 games, I think, last year. I put them, right there. If Kevin Durant, can fit into that mix quickly, I think they're right there, top 3-4 in the Western Conference this year.
And to me, the wild card is what do they do through the course of the season?
Yeah.
Because last year we heard a lot of, hey, we want to see, this team has so much promise. We're going to stand pat until the summer. We're going to see what we have with these guys. There were rumors about Kevin Durant at the trade deadline last year, and they didn't go for it because they said, hey, we want to see. Ime is doing such a good job with this team. And then we saw them hit their limit, and they said, great, we've seen the proof now, and we're going to go out and get Kevin Durant. They still have 4 first-round picks sitting in their treasure chest. And if the same kind of thing happens, but with better results this year, if they are racing through their schedule, if they are sitting in the number 1 or 2 position in the Western Conference, maybe they say, you know what? Let's spend 1 or 2 of these first-round picks and still have
picks, right?
Yes,
which are incredibly
valuable.
Yeah.
No matter what Matt Ishbia says.
That was weird, too. Matt Ishbia out there on Twitter clapping back at ESPN prognostic. Also rewriting history while he's doing it.
Of course.
Saying that people believed they were a championship contender when they did all those deals. I never believed that.
Do you know who believed that? Matt Ishbia.
Matt Ishbia believed that.
Who said 29 teams in the NBA would trade places with us.
I sat in his office shortly after he bought controlling interest in the team, and he was so bullish on that team's chances of, of winning with this group. And I just remember thinking, like, he just kind of putting together a team that looks good in NBA Live, or NBA 2K, like not one that I think made a lot of sense on a basketball court. But like having control of those Suns draft picks, that's big for Houston.
It's huge, and it's like Oklahoma City. They have so many assets that they don't have to make the choice between we got to protect our future and we got to go for it now. That's rare. And the fact that they are one of the teams that can do it, I think, is something to look out for. And I think that they may be in one tier to start the season, but possibly another tier by the time we get to the playoffs. We talked in the last pod, I have been the staunch advocate for Giannis staying in Milwaukee, sometimes battling to the death with you over this.
I'm not touching that on this
show. Look, if it doesn't work out in the first half of the season in Milwaukee, there could be a mutual or Giannis-led decision to...
That's a spicy take.
I think things are a lot different in the summer than they are halfway through the season. And that I think that we will see. I am, again, a proponent of Giannis staying in Milwaukee. I think there's way more beyond X's and O's and how you finish that comes into play there with the relationship with the community and the team and his family and all the other stuff. But there's all sorts of teams preparing for him to be available. I mean, we're going to talk about the Lakers. That's part of that conversation as well. And Houston's got the assets to make a move like that. Houston's got the assets for whoever. There's always a surprise person who's available in the middle of the season. There's always a star that's sort of, we didn't expect that. I just think, I don't think Houston's done, and I'm very curious to see if they play any of those cards this season.
I'm glad you brought up the Lakers because I'm putting them in the top tier. They are in my ring chaser tier.
So why don't we talk about them? Because I was going to put them in that tier as
You're
well.
putting that tier too? All right, then we both have the Lakers in that top tier.
I don't think there's any question that they're in that tier.
Yeah, but this the perception of the Lakers, or at least the narrative around the Lakers, I think is a lot different than what the Lakers are, or at least are trying to be, right? Like there's this perception that the Lakers are playing the long game here. Like they got Luka under contract. They're going to worry about next summer when they could potentially have some clean books, go out and get a second superstar. Well, they've got the second superstar. The second superstar is arguably the greatest player of all time in LeBron James. Like they've got the pieces in place to make a run. They've got some questions certainly. Like DeAndre Ayton Is he the guy there? Some of the other moves they made this offseason, we've got to see how that all plays out. Is Austin Reeves a part of this team long-term with Luka Doncic, or is he the centerpiece of a trade for them at some point during the season? But when you have Luka Doncic in his revenge year, looking like Slim Luka, cutting weight, covering men's health.
Dude, Fat Luka got to the NBA Finals.
Fat Luka got to the NBA Finals. Is Slim Luka going to take this team through a Western Conference field? And I keep going back to games that were played at the end of the regular season, the 2 games they played in Oklahoma City.
This was my next comment. So please lead us there.
Oklahoma City rolling into the postseason, number 1 seed in the West. They get beat by the Lakers in the first half of a 2-game homestand for the Thunder, and then probably would have lost had Luka not been unjustly tossed in the second game.
Yes. Correct.
Yes. So, if this is a team that can play this well against Oklahoma City, and granted, who knows how they play against Denver? Denver's had their number.
Yeah.
Different incarnations of the Lakers have had trouble with the Nuggets. But if you can play that well against Oklahoma City, and on paper, it looks like you got better, I got to put you in that top tier.
Dude, I don't think there's any question about this. And look, we live in LA. We see a lot of Lakers over exuberance. Every year this team is apparently going to win a title according to its fans. But in this case, I don't understand why people are being reserved about them. Luka Doncic is inarguably one of the top 3 players in the league, right? Even heavier Luka, drinking Luka, beer in his hands Luka, hookah Luka is a top 3 player. In the shape he's in, with the motivation he has, with the co-star and people around him he has, there's a strong possibility that he is legit competing for MVP this year or possibly going to win it, right? I think there is confusion over playing for the future versus playing for now. The confusion is people hear, hey, we want to keep our options open because Luka's only 26 years old, and they think, oh, we're not going for it now. They're going for it now. They're 100% going for it now. What they're not willing to do, and this has been, of course, a huge sticking point throughout the season, they are not willing to extend LeBron James. Because you can be going for it now this season, but also not want to add $50 million to your books in future seasons when possibly some of the big younger stars might be available. Hey, come to the Lakers, play with Luka Doncic. We've got some draft capital if it's a trade situation. We've got free agency money and room if it's not. There is a big difference between we don't want to hurt our future and we are saving for the future. They're not saving for the future. They feel they can win a title this year. And when you talk about the Oklahoma City component, yes, the fact that they could take Oklahoma City to that level at that point in the season is an indication of what they can do in general. But more specifically, it's an indication of what they can do against Oklahoma City. And you started this pod out by saying Oklahoma City, a category of its own. They're the heavy favorite, all this stuff. Oklahoma City has never been able to solve the Luka Doncic problem. They just haven't. He has ripped through that team. And he has so much confidence against them. And they seem to have a confidence gap when he walks on the floor. And I just think if you have the ability as a player and a team to take out one of the possibly the top contender, regardless of what might happen against the Nuggets, that's a huge thing. That's enormous. LeBron is still very good. The reason he is pissed about not getting extended, and he's right, both sides are right. That's the problem in this argument. Both sides are right. He is right that what was he, second team All-NBA this year? A second team All-NBA player should not be playing out his contract without an extension. The team shouldn't be like, we're not interested in talking to you anymore. That's ridiculous. However, the Lakers are right because no second tier All-NBA player has been 41, 42 years old by the time you're talking about paying him all that money. No team has been in the position where they have a generational superstar 15 years behind him that they have to prioritize in terms of where they're going to put their money, all of that stuff. But that doesn't mean LeBron isn't that level of player right now. He still is. And especially with Luka for the full season where LeBron can save some of his energy, especially if they can finally convince him, hey, man, you got to have a minutes restriction. I don't care. You are coming out.
Him into that.
You got to talk him into it. I hope with age, he wouldn't do it a couple years ago. He wouldn't really do it last season. I hope with age, maybe he sees that that's the smarter thing for him to do, if only to just shut everybody up.
Yeah.
Because if he looks tired in the playoffs, that's on him. And he wants to show everyone that he can win another title.
Yeah, and they should have guys that can step in and play big roles. Like, I don't think Marcus Smart is close to the player he was in Boston.
No.
He didn't look the same in Memphis. He didn't look the same last year in Washington. But if he can be 75, 80% of that guy, that's a step up. I thought the Lakers were weirdly obsessed with Jake LaRavia this offseason. They were almost too aggressive in going to get him. But maybe Rob Pelinka really sees something that makes sense for them. So, yeah, I think we have Luka, LeBron, a supporting cast that on paper is better than what it was last year. If Ayton can just accept that he is what he is, right? Like, be a rebound gobbler. On nights that Luka takes off or LeBron's out, that's when you get your post touches.
He's got his decision making has to. To me, that's one of the biggest holes in his game. His decision making just has to get quicker.
Yeah,
because that is where he gets attacked a lot. And again, I am not putting the Lakers in the Oklahoma City Denver category. To me, they are in a category of their own. But the Lakers, damn straight, are in the if they end up winning the finals, nobody should be surprised category. Right?
I agree.